Everyone, we are the Wolverine Cybersecurity Task Force here to brief on the network outages disrupting the region. My name is Ethan Morse. I'll be providing an incident overview and some analysis. With me I have Nicholas Bradley, Maggie Hutchins, and Caden Smart. Maggie will be doing our known intelligence versus unknown factors section, and Caden and Nick will go over our contingency and policy recommendations. So as you're aware, widespread network outages have disrupted telecommunication services across the region. These outages were caused by network overloads, and there's two main players in this situation. We have Titan, the telecommunication company, and Tango, the software company, and I'll get into both of those momentarily. So these outages have been occurring for a few weeks now. The outages coincided with Tango's product launch, and there has also been a DDoS attack happening against Titan. Now, we just want to make it very clear that at this time, we're not sure if Tango is acting maliciously and intending to cause for this to happen, or if this is just the product of taking up too much bandwidth. These outages have hit several countries in the region, including Germany, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, across several sectors, including finance and government sectors, as well as emergency services. So it's a very important issue that we resolve this. And then alongside these outages, at least one internal network within the EU has reportedly been compromised. So I mentioned Titan. They are the telecommunication giant in the region. They service 86% of the EU and 50% of the MENA regions. They are classified as critical national infrastructure, and they have reported recently indicators of compromise of malicious activity on their networks, and as well as a advanced DDoS targeted against them. Prior to these issues, Titan's CEO came out in support of companies taking ownership of the bandwidth that they're using and make sure that they're using that in an equitable way. And then Tango is a software company. They recently launched a drone augmented virtual reality simulation. These drones take up a lot of bandwidth, and they are considered to be a dual-use technology. And again, like we said, their product launch coincided with the beginning of the outages and the DDoS that we saw. Western intelligence agencies are concerned that Tango is either affiliated with or could be utilized by foreign state intelligence for espionage.
Now, this developing incident is not only very complex, but the information we are actually able to assess only represents a very small portion of this attack's landscape. To address this, I am going to break down what intelligence we do have and what some of our intelligence requirements are. First, we have received SIGINT reports, which have identified that multiple individuals were interested in targeting Tango prior to its product launch. It is also important to note that the techniques, tactics, and procedures used in these attacks will remain exploitable if they are not properly secured. And lastly, at least one potential security breach has been identified at the telcos company Titan. Now, our first intelligence requirement is the identity of the threat actors responsible for these attacks. Next, we need to know what attack vectors were used to gain access into Titan's network and the full extent of those system compromises. The last intelligence requirement that I will highlight is the current state of Titan's remediation efforts. Even though it is very early in dealing with the aftermath of these attacks, we feel that fully understanding Titan's progress is integral to our ability to efficiently respond to this incident.
In order to best respond to this situation, we recommend a series of policy options, as well as a contingency section at the bottom of the page, which we will get into more later on. Each policy option is grouped into one of 3 sections, and each section corresponds to one of 3 goals. Those goals are to investigate, mitigate, and anticipate. More specifically, those goals are to investigate the threat actors involved in these attacks, the extent of damages, and to explore economic policies to help prevent issues like this in the future. The mitigation section pertains to mitigating effects of these attacks and restoring critical national infrastructure and public services. The third section pertains to anticipating future and current issues caused by these attacks and taking steps to proactively resolve these issues. I'll start on the left-hand side with the investigate section. For this, it is recommended that Europol's high-tech division coordinates with member states in order to launch an investigation into whether data was exfiltrated from Titan, the threat actors involved, and the attack vectors that actors may have used to gain access to Titan systems. It is recommended that a secret memorandum be sent out to member states requesting that they utilize intelligence and law enforcement to monitor these abuse services for signs of additional malicious activity, as well as any new signs of threat actors. It is also recommended that the body of European regulators for electronic communications determine the feasibility of establishing a proportional financial contribution of organizations to telecom systems, which would help to increase broadband resiliency and prevent future issues like this from occurring. It is recommended that ENISA creates so that was the previous section that deals with investigation. I'll move on to the middle section, which deals and pertains to mitigation. For this, I'm already there. It is recommended that the EU Commission spokesperson releases a public statement to private industry partners about these attacks to mitigate the spread of misinformation. And it is recommended that ENISA creates a cyber response committee composed of private industry and public leaders. This committee would consult on a broad range of issues, including broadband resiliency, protocol security, and operational efficiency. And it is also recommended that we coordinate with the League of Arab States and the EU delegation of Israel to aid the MENA region in restoring critical services.
And on to the right-hand side, our policy recommendation on anticipation. We recommend that ENISA issue a safety review of Tango software under the directive of the resilience of critical entities. We recommend that ENISA informs the EU Council to prioritize policy and legislation to temporarily suspend Tango software pending a further investigation. Further, we would like the Political and Security Committee to coordinate with NATO's Cyberspace Operations Center for additional support and information sharing. We would like NATO to act as a fusion center for secret and top secret intelligence sharing between our member states and NATO members. We recommend that the Committee for Civilian Aspects of Crisis Management, or CIVCOM, coordinate with the Crisis Management and Planning Directorate to restore legacy communication systems for a critical national infrastructure to include healthcare services, financial services, and energy services. Additionally, we would like CIVCOM to prepare the healthcare industry for service outages while handling the Alpha 24 outbreak. This can be done through private industries like OneWeb and Starlink that can provide these services to the healthcare industry. Our contingency recommendation would be pending a further investigation, but it is whether an EU entity was breached in this attack. If this was the case, we recommend that ENISA initiate the TLP Amber protocol to the affected organizations and executive bodies to contain the knowledge of the breach until we can get a further understanding of the situation. We also recommend that Europol would assist in coordinating the member states' investigations into the loss of data and the techniques, planning, and procedures of the attack. We will now turn the time over to you for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, especially for staying within the time limit. That was great. And that was a good transition because that's what's next. We will continue with the Q&A session for another 10 minutes. So now over to the judges, and I see Ms. Jackson unmuting herself. So yeah, please feel free to ask a question.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I think it's good morning to you because it's probably morning where you're at right now. I'm going to keep it short, I'm going to keep it brief. I would like to know if you have a certain prioritization in your tested options? What is the work that you would do first and second and last? What is the priority in the bullet points that you put on the paper?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as priority goes, I think the goal is to first address things that are critical, right? Healthcare, financial, emergency services, things that are critical national infrastructure. So those would be some of the things we prioritize. But we do believe that everything in all three sections, to investigate, to mitigate, and to anticipate, all of these are necessary to both fix the damage that has been caused, as well as hopefully stop it from happening again. So we do believe that all these things we can take on these things kind of all at the same time and get them all done as soon as possible.
Thank you. Over to Mr. Charles. The next question.
Thank you very much. I have a question on the role of the private sector. Here, in some of your actions, you, for example, recommend that EPAS and NISA temporarily suspend Tango software. They mitigate as a public statement to private industry partners, mitigate misinformation. Is there more that should be done there? What is the appropriate role of the private sector, given that there are, in this scenario, even private industry leaders as part of the NISA senior leadership board? So, if you're speaking to the private sector as well, what are you recommending rather than just to the state and EU board?
Just to make your question clear, you're asking where the private sector can work further into our policy recommendations, is that correct?
That's a good version of it.
Yeah, we definitely think they play a big part in this. Obviously, Titan is private industry, and then the services affected by these outages, a lot of them are in the private sector. We recognize the need for them to be both part of the solution and then also to receive assistance going through this. That's why we recommended that we have strong communication with them. Some of that is in secret in order to be able to continue our investigation into Tango, and then other parts of that communication we hope to be very public, to say that we're aware of the situation and we're looking to remediate it. And we do believe the private sector is a big part of that.
It's also important to note that although Titan is by far the largest in the EU and in the MENA region for telecommunications, there are other companies that we may want to reach out to and talk to as well, that provide similar services to Titan.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? I see Ms. Nadine Talani would you like to come in? So you're unmuted.
Yes. When you were talking about this NATO collaboration or exchange, you mentioned that you would like to enable the top secret sharing of information. Basically, what information that is available is part of this private company, Titan's infrastructure settings and how they have been exposed to this attack. And I was wondering if NATO actually can expose a private company to share their IP-related information, and would that be okay with considering that there are other private companies in the NATO countries who could be in a competitive situation?
Yeah, that's a very good consideration. One thing, we do want to respect the privacy of Titan, and we want to encourage Titan and other affected companies that it's okay to come and say, hey, we've been breached or we've experienced this attack. It's not necessarily their fault that outages are occurring against them, especially if it's a targeted, advanced, either DDoS or other malicious activity. So as far as NATO goes, we believe that Titan will be cooperative in working with NATO in a way that we can respect their privacy. Again, and as you mentioned, there will be potentially other interested parties that we want to maintain the privacy of Titan's intellectual property. But we believe that their stance so far has been a very willing stance to solve these issues even before they occurred. They had brought these up, and we believe that they'll be willing to work with us, and we do agree that boundaries need to be set as we work with them.
And just to add to that, we will express to not only Titan but any potential private partner in this that we are not looking for them to share, trade secrets or IP that is only applicable to their company. We are mainly looking for any information or records that could help with these specific attacks, and we view that if we do obtain that would just help us respond to this the best.
Thank you so much for this question and also the answer to it. Mr. Yusuf Sharif, would you like to come in with another question? Sorry, we cannot hear you. You're muted still. Sorry, Mr. Sharif.
He's muted and he apparently doesn't want to come in. Is that right?
Okay, yes,
Can
okay,
I
thank you.
another question if there is time?
Yes, okay, we have 3 minutes left, so please go ahead.
Sorry, James, do you want to come in? Okay, thank you. I was wondering, this Arab League and the Israeli delegation to the EU recommendation that you had that one should coordinate with this region, in what sense would that mitigate? Just talking to them would mitigate this critical infrastructure problem in Europe?
Sorry, coordinate with who?
Arab.
Oh, okay.
Did you get the question?
I believe we understand it. We put that in the mitigation section for a couple of reasons. They have different infrastructure plans than the EU does, and they may have found solutions or have implemented policy that has had a benefit in this situation, and so coordinating with them, we can help understand that, and vice versa, we might be able to help them out. The EU has deep historical ties with the MENA region, and I think that our existing partnerships are important to consider. It's also important to remember the Alpha 24 outbreak that is expected to hit the EU soon, and we can help get intelligence as to how that is affecting their systems and their healthcare systems to better prepare us for the outbreak.
And then broadly speaking, network outages, cybersecurity attacks, if that's what this is, those don't necessarily respect national boundaries or state boundaries, right? They're going to spread, and so we just want to have as many people, as many organizations coordinating effectively that we can.
Thank you, Mr. Shars. Do you want to come in? I think we have another question.
Sure, it builds off my last point pretty well. Network outages or cyber attacks, what's your best assessment? You know, they said there's a series of attacks. Is that the most appropriate term? You also say in the document that they coincide with the project launch. How many have there been? Are they all best understood as attacks, and do they all coincide with Tango's product launch, or are they separate?
Yeah, our best assessment right now is that we cannot clearly state whether this is Tango acting maliciously as a form of cyber attack, or if it is just that there are outages because they're using too much bandwidth. Tango has denied, their stance has been that they haven't been causing this. They've denied taking more bandwidth than they have been. So that does raise somewhat of a red flag, and our assessments are that there are ongoing outages as well as malicious cyber attacks. And that's why we really want to focus on an investigation to see what is the line between the two and are there connections, if any, between the two.
And just to jump in here, Tango did its product launch, which consumed a bunch of bandwidth, and then the DDoS attacks followed soon after their launch. So that's the timing of these attacks. And part of the issue is that these attacks could cause kind of a chain effect where certain places get more overloaded than others, so there's still network disturbances that are residual from these attacks.
And just to make sure I fully answered your question, I think I talked a little too much, but at this time we don't feel that we can say one way or another. We would want to have more information before we provided that assessment.
Thank you so much. We actually already at the end of the 10 minutes for the Q&A. So if that's okay, Mr. Sharif, then we would move to the breakout sessions for the grading, and then you can come in with any feedback, any comments, etc. Just for the sake of time reasons. So as the next step, we will be going to breakout rooms. That means the judges and myself. And I would kindly ask the team to stay in the main session and just to bear with us for 5 minutes, and then we will return to the main session for the remaining 15 minutes of feedback on your presentation and also the decision document. So give me a brief moment while I create breakout groups. And I would kindly ask the judges, you already